Sometimes you have an instinct, May. You see something in a fighter. You don't even know if it's real. You're looking for it so bad.
You're Brofi MMA here to break down BKFC Fight Night Mohegan Sun, kicking off Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. A little bit earlier start time than normal, but lots of familiar faces on this card. We only got 3 or 4 debuts. One of those including Kris Moutinho, recently released from the UFC. Also got Joey Gambino, had a short stint in the UFC more than 10 years ago. He'll be making a second BKFC appearance. Also headlined by Bryce Henry, undefeated 7-0 in BKFC, facing Carlos Trinidad-Snake, number 1 ranked versus number 2, who is 7-1 in BKFC. Speaking of UFC, we got Dana White Contender Series tonight, 7 o'clock, the Tuesday I'm filming this. Dana White Contender Series is always a great watch, especially on Tuesdays, man. Who gets to watch great fights on Tuesdays? But yeah, if you ever tune in on Paramount, Dana White Contender Series, man, this is where a lot of big prospects from the UFC get signed in the Contender Series. And next week you'll have Frank Mir's daughter, Bella Mir, debuting in the Contender Series, trying to earn a UFC contract. But yeah, you can win a fight by decision on Contender Series, and it doesn't matter. You have to impress Dana White. You have to impress the matchmakers, and that's what makes Dana White Contender Series so exciting. Is people are hunting for finishes. But yeah, been on a rough stretch in BKFC. There's been so many cards this year. BKFC's really stepped it up in just their number of cards, fights, promotion. Really have to give it to them. You really see them coming up, man. But with that comes a lot of debut fighters. They're debuting in certain places for the first time. With that comes a bunch of debut fighters. It's been a rough streak. I'm pretty sure I'm 116, 117, and 68 currently for the past year in my picks. Like I said, some familiar faces this card. We're going to try and just stick to the well and look to have a good card this week. I'm going to recap BKFC Sturgis real quick, so if you want to skip ahead, skip the recap. Quick picks are at the end as well. Kroger, low confidence, just because I couldn't really find much on KB Dubois here. And you saw some kind of crazy line movement for this fight. KB Dubois, I swear some late money came in on him. And Trayvon Kroger, like I told you, 6'3", 145 featherweight. That's going to possess a lot of problems stylistically to any opponent in the featherweight division. I don't care if you're fighting MMA, bare knuckle boxing. This guy's lanky, and he uses it to his advantages. He'll touch you, and then load up on 2 or 3 at the end. And this fight, he was styling on him. Pretty sure he was air dribbling in there, but he ended up landing a shot on KB Dubois, kind of like a Shane Burgos knockout. I forget. But it like stunned him, and I believe it was like a delayed knockdown. I believe, I could be wrong, but yeah, I ended up going 2-1 on the free fights, 5-4 overall. Next fight, Clay Collard versus Daniel Keepers. Ended up taking Daniel Keepers. I don't know what steered me into that direction. I just thought Clay Collard, man, he's kind of weathered. Been through Murderers Row, was on a losing streak, and on the end of his boxing career, on the end of his MMA career, he ended up just he outclassed Daniel Keepers, used his experience. Daniel Keepers gassed after like the first 2 minutes. He did look good in the first round, but too much experience. Clay Collard looked pretty good in there, man, but 32, 33 years old. Like I said, I don't think that's the fighter that's stepping into the ring nowadays. I think he's more like 36. I think he's getting up there. He's been through a lot of wars. Once he starts facing the top level of the bare knuckle division, I think he's gonna start having some problems still. But nonetheless, horrible pick by me. Pretty sure Keepers was like a plus 300 dog. Just took a shot. Thought Keepers would have the reach and be able to match him in the power. This fight kind of saved me my whole card, man. I usually have one lock dog of the week for each card. Lucas Wright was my lock of the week for this card, and he ended up turning to an underdog. I was getting scared, but I was all over Lucas Wright facing Brian McDowell, and man, this fight scared me the whole time. You could tell Lucas Wright gassed out after like the first or second round, man, but he never gave up. One thing that stuck in my head, that Lucas Wright has no clinch game, man. I don't know if he was that tired, he didn't want to expend more energy in the clinch, but he was putting Brian McDowell on his back foot for 10 minutes straight, pretty much 5 rounds. He was putting Brian McDowell on his back foot. Brian McDowell was backing up into the ropes, into the clinch, pretty much the whole fight. You got to give it to Lucas Wright, no matter what, in my opinion, for ring control. Like, man, he was just backing up Brian McDowell. Don't get it wrong, though. Lucas Wright, like I said, he couldn't land anything in the clinch. But he was just walking into him with big shots, and then he would initiate the clinch, where Brian McDowell had most success, but he's already on his back foot fighting off the ropes. And Lucas Wright, in them later rounds, even like the third, man, he would initiate the clinch, and then he'd go hands on his knees. You could tell he was absolutely after every clinch exchange, he would bend over, and you can tell he was absolutely redlining, exhausted, but he never quit, man. And visually, it looked horrible. Like, I thought the ref might wave it off if he kept like kind of stalling and hands on his knees, hands on his hips after every clinch disengagement. But yeah, that was my one high confidence pick this card, I believe. Thank God Lucas Wright pulled through. Cheyenne Bentliff versus Crystal Pittman. Ended up taking Cheyenne Bentliff average confidence. I just believed everything was lining up on her side. She had the age advantage, reach advantage, size advantage. I would say durability advantage. Hometown. She was a hometown fighter as well in this fight. So I ended up going average confidence on her. Didn't actually end up watching this fight. I ended up walking in late, and I heard, oh, she got knocked down again, and I got nervous and checked the screen, and then ended up talking about Bentliff, and they were talking about how she was pretty much showcasing, so I was happy to hear that. And yeah, I guess just a great performance by Cheyenne Bentliff. I'm pretty sure she knocked down Crystal Pittman like 3 or 4 times. And like I said, I felt like everything was lining up on Bentliff's side for this matchup, so I ended up taking her average confidence. Okay, Zeb Vincent versus Alonzo Martinez. Ended up taking Zeb Vincent average to low confidence. And from the start of this fight, I was extremely worried for Zeb Vincent. I could tell Alonzo Martinez had a significant power advantage from the start of the fight. You could tell that he was trying to put the other fighter's lights out. He's trying to put Zeb Vincent's lights out that whole fight, from the start of the fight to the end. And I knew it was just a matter of time before Zeb Vincent kind of got caught in this fight. I do believe he was maybe barely winning. He was kind of like living off the jab and all that, but man, he had his chin up there high, and Alonzo Martinez was barely missing this whole fight with just absolutely huge power shots that I did not see coming. I didn't think Alonzo Martinez could fight like that. Maybe if Zeb Vincent survives that round, Alonzo Martinez finally slows down because he was throwing absolute power this whole fight. Finally catches Zeb Vincent, puts him out bad. Like Tai Tuivasa, like hit by a QB and getting hit in the NFL, man. Ooh, that was a bad knockout. Alonzo Martinez went up straight away and screamed right in his face. That Vincent wasn't even on this planet. You could tell Alonzo Martinez kind of was fighting this fight with a little bit of emotion, man. And yeah, that was a brutal knockout. Props to Alonzo Martinez. That dude's a dog. He's like 40. He's in his early 40s, man. Still looking good. Bear Hill versus Brady Meister. Ended up taking Brady Meister, low confidence. Odds were pretty close on this fight, and then ended up getting pretty wider around fight time. I believe Bear Hill ended up being around 2-1 favorite, and rightfully so. Bear Hill, from his last performance, it looked like he turned the clock, man. It looked like he's been living in the gym. Like I said, he's a great look for BKFC. I even said in my breakdown, Brady Meister, man, like he kind of likes fighting in the pocket, and he's going to invite Bear Hill into the pocket, and that was just a recipe for disaster. Bear Hill had the clear power advantage in this fight as well. Hurting Brady Meister left and right. Brady Meister really didn't have nothing to show for Bear Hill. And I kind of cursed myself in this prediction. I said Brady Meister. I usually, when I take the taller guy, their chin will get touched. And hindsight, bad pick. Couple bad picks this card, but can only learn from it and flip the page. Last fight of the night, Brian Atchison versus Mike Jones. Saw a lot of people on the underdog Mike Jones for this fight. And I thought Brian Atchison, I thought he should have been the favorite coming into this, and he was. Could have got him around -150, man. Kind of had to weather an early Mike Jones storm, but once again, man, power on the Brian Atchison side, and this man could throw absolute bombs, and he caught Mike Jones. Pretty sure Mike Jones ended up falling through the ropes. This fight, I'm just remembering now, the 10-second clacker goes off and Brian Atchison just absolutely goes apeshit with the 10. He just heard the 10-second clacker and he's just like, all right, I'm just going to throw a wild combination, and he ended up catching Mike Jones kind of sleeping, put him out pretty bad. So yeah, a 5-4 card, not great statistically, but hit my high confidence in Lucas Wright, was extremely excited about that. And you could say I hit all my averages and high confidence this card, including Atchison, except Zeb Vincent. I took him average, ended up taking him low, like kind of in my quick picks. I was on the average to low side, but ended up hitting Bentliff, Simon. Can't be too mad at this card. On to the next. Alright, first fight of the night for this BKFC Fight Night Mohegan Sun card. Bantamweight bout, you have 30-year-old Jared Lennon taking on 25-year-old Dominick Carey. Both these fighters got bare knuckle experience. Jared Lennon 1-1-1 in BKFC. 1 win, 1 loss, 1 draw. Dominick Carey 1-1 in BKFC. Looking at the tail of the tape, Jared Lennon, I believe, is going to be a little bit taller, lankier in this matchup, standing 5'10" compared to 5'9" Carey. Also should possess about a 3-inch reach advantage. Jared Lennon, 0-1 amateur kickboxer, but over on BKFC.com says he's picked up the boxing gloves. Started learning boxing in a gym near him when he was around like 14 years old, so he picked it up not too late. Looking on the Dominick Carey side, 2-3 amateur MMA fighter. He's also has an 0-1 pro boxing record, I believe. Just I'm kind of biased on Lennon. Took him in his last fight against Chachi Versace. I like what I see about him. I think I think he's a good size bantamweight. I think Dominick Carey might be a little undersized for bantamweight. Kind of see him near like a flyweight. I think he's got speed. I think he might have speed in this matchup against Jared Lennon, but I would still lean the power side for Jared Lennon. Also, Dominick Carey can get a little bit reckless. I think Jared Lennon is a little bit more technical with his strikes, picks his shots a little bit better, maybe a little bit more sound defense as well. I also think Jared Lennon fought the tougher level of competition through his BKFC career. I just think Jared Lennon is going to be hungry coming off that his last draw, I hope. And Dominick Carey, his one win in BKFC, is coming off a disqualification due to illegal shots. So I think Jared Lennon's going to be the slight favorite in this matchup. We'll see. Give me him low confidence on the next fight. All right, second of the free fights over on BKFC's YouTube channel. We got a bantamweight bout, 34-year-old Alexandra Ballou taking on 20-year-old Sophia Hayes. Interesting one here. Kind of deja vu. Ballou ended up taking against her high confidence with Taylor Dagner in her in both of their BKFC debuts. Ballou ended up dropping Taylor Dagner in the second round. Deja vu, just kind of like Jared Lennon got dropped against Chachi Versace. They ended up going to a draw, 28-28, because Dagner ended up winning rounds 1 and 3. Ballou just snagged that second round, so they ended up tying. So now you got Alexandra Ballou making her bantamweight debut, which I don't really love, but she's a tough girl. She showed in her debut she can take damage, which impressed me a lot. And then Sophia Hayes on the other side, she showed me she can take damage as well in her BKFC debut, facing a tough Mexican fighter, not getting dropped once, and didn't get busted up that bad. You can tell Sophia Hayes has a little bit of speed with her youth, but overall, she doesn't have much power, man, in her build. And that's what I learned in her debut. Her opponent just had a clear power advantage. Sophia Hayes, 3-3 amateur MMA, 1-0 Muay Thai. I believe in my first breakdown, I said her kicks looked like her best asset of her game. And I'm not sold on her punching yet, man. I think she's still maturing and getting stronger, growing into her body, being only 20 years old. You have Alexandra Ballou, 2-2 professional MMA, 3-0 amateur. And you see the Husky logo near her shoulder. That means she's fighting out of Connecticut. This is one of the Connecticut home fighters for this card. You believe she'll have the hometown advantage. Also, for the first fight, for the Jared Lennon Dominick Carey fight, that fight was added really late into the week. I want to say yesterday, so Monday. So that fight was put together really late. Another reason why I'm low confidence on it. You don't know what their training camp, short notice, what all that's like with the late matchmaking there. But yeah, looking at the tally of tape for this fight, 14 years younger on the Sophia Hayes side. I have an asterisk near that. Her 21st birthday is coming up soon. Whenever it's within a month, I usually highlight it. So she's pretty much 21 years old. And I think the tally of tape's kind of lying in these numbers here. I think Sophia Hayes is going to be the little bit longer striker in this matchup, which kind of worries me. I think Sophia Hayes is a natural bantamweight in this matchup. Ballou really hasn't fought 135 a lot in her career. Sophia Hayes has fought 135 a lot more. Alexandra Ballou's kind of more like a 125er. I just feel like the bantamweight division is so thin that these ladies ended up having to get put together. The only ones wanting to fight right now, just the bantamweight division's kind of thin right now for BKFC, and they're trying to add a lot more women fighters. So Sophia Hayes let me down a lot more than Alexandra Ballou impressed me in her last matchup, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't. But Alexandra Ballou showed she can knock a girl down. That's important in women's bare knuckle. She showed she has power. She can hurt a good fighter in Taylor Dagner, who still won rounds 1 and 3 off of her, but was it a lucky punch? Who knows? She showed off good durability, but so has Hayes. I just think the power factor is going to lean on Ballou here, and you kind of got to take that in a ladies matchup. She's going to have the home crown side on her, home crown advantage on her side. I don't love Sophia Hayes' punching, but I also don't like the bantamweight debut moving up a weight class for Ballou. But hopefully with that comes increased durability. Ballou's not that very big. She's hittable, and Sophia Hayes could possibly win this with just by volume. Death by 1,000 cuts. I could see Alexandra Ballou coming in here the rightful favorite. I could see her in the minus 200s. I'm going to be taking her low confidence on to the next fight. Alright, third and final free fight over on BKFC's YouTube channel. I just want to mention another thing. I told you guys, look out. These free fights might be changed to 5-round fights. I noticed on the England card they had them all listed as 5-round fights. I don't know if it was an error or what. Granted, none of them went past 3 rounds. They all ended up getting knocked out or stopped. But yeah, you hear fighters lobbying, saying they want the free fights to be 5 rounds because 3 rounds is too short. So just keep an eye on that in the upcoming future. I was wrong last week, I guess, but I swear that England card, and people were saying we want 5-round fights on these free fights, and it looked like they changed it, and now we're kind of back to the 3-round from last week. But just wanted to mention that. So we got a lightweight bout here. 33-year-old Nate Ghareeb taking on 26-year-old Nash Diedrichs. Ghareeb 0-1 in BKFC. Diedrichs 1-2 in BKFC. One of those losses coming on the Prospect Series. Looking at the tail of the tape, pretty identical. I'd say Nash Diedrichs a little bit longer. Ghareeb a little bit wider, a little bit more brolic. Looks like he's a little bit built better for bare knuckle, in my opinion. Nate Ghareeb, 13-4 pro MMA fighter. 7 of his 13 wins by knockout. 1 of his 4 losses by knockout. 6-3 amateur. Nash Diedrichs, nothing really on him, man. Kind of just street fighter. Went right into BKFC. Found him. Tried out for the Prospect Series. Ended up losing. Not a great look, in my opinion. Nate Ghareeb took his BKFC debut really short notice against who's proven to be a very tough matchup. Despite his size for anyone in BKFC and Trey Martin, Nate Ghareeb ended up going back and forth with Trey Martin. Trey Martin cashed as a huge dog once again for the first time, and then the second time against Nathan Rivera, he ended up cashing as like a plus 2,000 dog. Absolutely insane. I want to say he was like plus 500 against Nate Ghareeb. I ended up taking Nate Ghareeb in his debut. I saw he lost the split. I don't think I ended up watching that fight, but man, I was like, wow. Got to keep an eye on this Trey Martin guy, and then he ends up winning as a plus 2,000 dog in one of his next fights. Just absolutely unreal. And I watched some tape, and Nate Ghareeb was going back and forth to Trey Martin in his BKFC debut. Looks like Nate Ghareeb is just gritty. Looks like he's kind of like a junkyard dog, man. Like he's kind of bred to be a fighter. He didn't look like he was in best shape for that short notice fight against Trey Martin. I believe he's going to be coming into this fight a lot more in shape. It looks like he's durable. It looks like he could eat shots, outwork you, kind of drown you, take you into deep waters. I watched some interviews recently on Nate Ghareeb. Looks like he's just ready to fight. Looks like he's my kind of fighter to pick for BKFC. I'm going to go average confidence on Nate Ghareeb here. I could see him coming into this in the minus 300s possibly. We'll see. Every time I say that, he's gonna be like a plus 110. But we have been getting some good high confident picks at near coin flip odds all year. Next up, lightweight bout. You have 45-year-old Brandon Bushaw taking on 36-year-old Matt Denning. Brandon Bushaw 2-1 in BKFC. Matt Denning making his BKFC debut. Looking at the tail of the tape, Brandon Bushaw 1 inch taller, can't find reach on either of these fighters. Just standing there, looks like Bushaw a little bit lankier, more in shape. Yeah, this is a resume pick for me. Brandon Bushaw, 7-6 pro MMA fighter, not the best, but 3 out of his 7 wins by knockout. Has only been knocked out out of his 6 losses. 7-4 amateur MMA fighter. Also has 1 win over in BKB. We like to see that. Matt Denning, he has 1 loss over in BKB. Also has an 8-25 professional MMA record. 0 of his 8 wins by knockout. 13 of his 25 losses by knockout. Also holds a pro boxing record of 1-8 from what I can find on BoxRec. One of his wins by knockout, 5 of his 8 losses by knockout. Matt Denning, his nickname's the Human Ken doll or something. You can see he's got fight or die on his chest. And I'm taking the near 50-year-old Brandon Bushaw in this matchup. Like I said, pure resume pick. Bushaw's got the wins in BKB. Matt Denning, no success in BKB, no success in pro boxing and pro MMA. You do see some fighters have none of that success and then have success in bare knuckle in the BKFC, man. But yeah, just putting together this tail of the tape. Put my logo over here just to remind me I'm leaning Brandon Bushaw. If you see my logo on a certain side, 90% chance I'm taking that fighter. I'm going to be taking Brandon Bushaw here, average confidence, because I think he is going to be a pretty heavy favorite coming into this matchup. I could see him in the minus 500-600, honestly, given just like level of competition, resume, how these guys are really going to match up. I could see Brandon Bushaw getting Matt Denning out of there early, first, second round. Could be low confidence as well too. I don't think depending on the odds, man. It's all depending on the odds. Father Time is undefeated. Brandon Bushaw, 45 years old. Matt Denning, 9-year age advantage coming into this fight. But yeah, I got to lean Bushaw here. I think he's going to be a pretty heavy favorite. I'll take him average confidence, but kind of low confidence bet on the next fight. Next up, light heavyweight bout. You have 33-year-old Kris Perreault taking on Joe Powers. Can't find an age on Joe Powers. Can only find his height listed around 5'8". Kris Perreault, I would list him around 6'2", man. This guy's pretty tall. I think he's more built like a light heavyweight than Joe Powers. Both these fighters making their BKFC debut. Kris Perreault transitioning from MMA, 4-1 pro MMA fighter. 2 of his 4 wins by knockout. Hasn't been knocked out in his lone loss. 5-0 amateur MMA fighter. Joe Powers, 1-5 professional MMA fighter. 2 of his 5 losses by knockout. 3-3 amateur MMA. 2-3 pro boxing. Both his wins by knockout. 2 of his 3 losses by knockout. Coming off a 2-year layoff. Also going to have the home crowd on his side, I would believe. Looking at some of Joe Powers' boxing fights, drops his hands a lot. He's hittable. He's outsized, kind of outreached in a lot of his fights. Seen him kind of struggle with the taller, lankier fighters. And he's kind of just looking for them big power shots. He doesn't really have any combinations. Perreault on the other side, more technical combinations, keep you at reach, pick his shots. Just got to keep your chin tucked, being the taller fighter. Should also be the younger fighter coming in this matchup, I would believe, honestly. I'm going to be taking Kris Perreault here, average confidence. I think it might be possibly a solid parlay piece. Looks like he carries some power in his build, keeps his his shots pretty straight. And that's what I like to see. Give me Kris Perreault here, average confidence. Hopefully we can get a good price on him. Next up, featherweight bout, you have Moutinho making his BKFC debut, most known for his fight against Sean O'Malley, where he just ate a bunch of shots. Kind of known for, in the UFC, just known for his durability, man. He'll eat a lot of shots, and just a real durable, tough kid. You can kind of see that translation helping him and hurting him a little bit joining the BKFC. So Moutinho, 34 years old, he's going to be... BKFC's giving him 40-year-old Michael Hernandez, who's 1-0 for his first test in BKFC, who's got a pretty impressive 11-4 professional MMA record. 8 of his 11 wins by knockout. Has only been knocked out once in his 4 losses. On the Moutinho side, he's 15-8 professional MMA record. 6 out of his 15 wins by knockout, 5 of his 8 losses by knockout, 0-4 stint in the UFC, 0-1 pro boxer. You can say Kris Moutinho had to fight a much higher level of competition. Looking at the tail of the tape, pretty identical. I could say Michael Hernandez being a little bit shorter in this matchup. Kris Moutinho maybe pushing 5'7". Might be a little bit longer fighter. He's going to have 1-2 inch reach in this matchup, I could see. Michael Hernandez, a lot more wider, more brolic. I know Michael Hernandez was supposed to fight Peter Perreault a few months ago, and Michael Hernandez ended up pulling out of that late. He must have got hurt, must have been a bad weight cut, something like that. But Michael Hernandez pulled out of his last fight. Ashton Canaglia, I want to say, jumped in real short notice to fight Peter Perreault, and I absolutely hammered Peter Perreault after I saw that short notice change. I just don't rate Ashton Canaglia that good at all. Don't rate him that high. Michael Hernandez has that stocky, bare knuckle build. Looks like he's durable. He's pretty quick for this featherweight division. Carries some power too. But he's getting up there, 40 years old, these lower weight classes. Kris Moutinho, more in his prime, has fought the way higher level of competition. You gotta believe his technicality, his options just to pull a different move out of the tool shed, out of his tool bag, has got to be there for him, man. He's got to be able to show Michael Hernandez stuff in this fight that Michael Hernandez really hasn't ever seen. And it's not a knock on Michael Hernandez. It's just the step up in level of competition Kris Moutinho has seen throughout his career in the UFC, pro MMA. He's just took the harder route. He's proven, Kris Moutinho's proven to be durable, man. And that's number one trait for BKFC, is durability, being able to outdog or pretty much just break your opponent. I can't not pick Kris Moutinho in his BKFC debut. I think, once he starts facing more high-level experienced BKFC fighters, he's going to start running into problems with how much damage he takes. But I don't see him having much problems in his early parts of BKFC. You got to imagine he's going to be the favorite. A bunch of people are going to see his name, recognize it, hammer him. Hopefully we can catch him around -300-400, but I'm going to go average confidence Kris Moutinho. I think he gets the job done in his BKFC debut. does worry me a little bit how much damage he does take. Just hard to pick against him in his debut. Next up, bantamweight bout, 25-year-old Lardy Navarro taking on 27-year-old Robert Fichtner. Lardy Navarro, 4-2 amateur boxer. I have an asterisk because over on BKFC.com they have him listed where he has like 12, 14 amateur boxing fights. But I'm going off of BoxRec, and that's all I can find off of BoxRec. Looking at the tail of the tape, Navarro 4-1 in BKFC, Robert Fichtner 0-1 in BKFC. He's on a 60-day turnaround. He made his debut 2 months ago. Faced Joby Steffensmeyer. I ended up taking Joby Steffensmeyer against Fichtner, and man, that was a really close fight. Could have gone either way, honestly. I scored it for Steffensmeyer because of the ring control. It looks like Robert Fichtner, he can kind of, he'll give you the ring a little bit. He'll go on his back foot. He likes fighting off his back foot, and kind of, he likes walking you into things. He wants you to walk into his punches. And 60 days ago, he's making the 60-day turnaround. Robert Fichtner, 1-6 amateur MMA fighter, 0-3 pro boxer. I saw these as red flags, man. I ended up taking Steffensmeyer at average confidence, and Fichtner ended up giving him a fight. I was pretty impressed by Fichtner. Pretty long for the 135 division, but so is Navarro. Stands 5'10" compared to Fichtner, 5'8", 5'9". Navarro's going to have a slight reach, I believe, in this matchup. Also, home crowd edge leaning on the Navarro side. Navarro coming off an 8-month layoff compared to Fichtner. 60-day turnaround. Fichtner, though, looks like he hurt his hand. Don't know how bad. In his debut 2 months ago against Steffensmeyer. I don't really like that for a 2-month turnaround, going right back into fight camp, hitting pads. I don't really like that for Robert Fichtner, and see him possibly hurt his hand again in this fight. You never know. But yeah, Lardy Navarro proven to be a tough 135er to match up with in the BKFC, 4-1 record. Coming off a pretty tight win in his last fight. Split decision. Didn't look all that great, but man, you come into BKFC with a boxing pedigree and you prove to be a tough task. I kind of got to pick you, Lardy Navarro. He's going to have the hometown crowd on his side. I'm not loving the quick turnaround for Robert Fichtner. And you can't really clearly beat Joby Steffensmeyer, who I would say, who I said should be a level above Fichtner in their matchup. And it looked like they were pretty evenly classed. But now you're getting fed up even more into this BKFC bantamweight division. Up the ladder, facing an even tougher fighter. I got to take Lardy Navarro here. I think he's the rightful favorite. Give me Lardy Navarro. We'll go average confidence on the next fight. Alright, on to the featured fight. Featherweight bout. You have 37-year-old Joey Gambino versus 40-year-old Tommy Strydom. Diving right into height and reach, Tommy Strydom, a little bit longer, lankier striker. Gambino, a little bit more compact. Tommy Strydom, 1-4 professional MMA record. To start his professional MMA career, he did join like a last man standing tournament where you had to fight 3 different opponents in one night, and he ended up beating all opponents, mostly by submission, I believe. But Tommy Strydom, 4-2 in the BKFC. He's been in the BKFC about 4 years now. 4-2 record. He started off 4-0, and then he started getting fed the really top level talent in this BKFC featherweight division. Ended up actually facing Kai Stort for the one title shot. On the other side, Joey Gambino, 9-2 professional MMA record, 0-2 stint way back in like 2012 in the UFC. He's got 3 knockout wins out of his 9 professional MMA wins. Never been knocked out of his 2 losses. Gambino, pretty crazy story, man. He got released from the UFC in like 2012 and never really fought again. I'm sure he's active in the gym, but he ended up going on 14-year layoff until making his BKFC debut early this January. I think Joey Gambino is just going to be a class higher than Tommy Strydom in this matchup. I can see Gambino winning rounds just because of his pressure. He has good pressure. Tommy Strydom kind of likes fighting off of his back foot. Sometimes he'll back into the ropes and he'll give you the octagon or the ring control. I could see this possibly go to decision. Tommy Strydom is tough. Start off his BKFC career 4-0, like I said, but wasn't against the highest level of competition. I just like the pressure that Gambino puts in his fights, and he's got solid defense. He'll move his head in there. I think he's going to have the power advantage, and I think this is a good matchup for Gambino. We'll see. I'm going to be taking him. I want to go average. We'll go average confidence on to the next fight. Next up, co-main event light heavyweight bout. You have the number 3 ranked in this light heavyweight division, Cody Vidal, 37 years old, taking on 44-year-old number 3 ranked in the cruiserweight division, Joseph Creer. Cody Vidal 4-1-1 in the BKFC. His one draw coming to Brandon Conley, who you saw put on a pretty good performance in his last fight earlier this year. Joseph Creer 6-3 in BKFC, standing 6'3", has a solid build for this light heavyweight division. He also jumps from light heavyweight to cruiserweight. Looking at the stats though, it looks like Cody Vidal in his reach, he's not going to be at a significant reach disadvantage. Vidal orthodox, Joseph Creer southpaw, Cody Vidal 1-2 in professional MMA, 4-2 amateur, Joseph Creer 7-2 pro MMA fighter, only 1 knockout out of his 7 wins, and he's been knocked out in both of his losses, 6-1 amateur. Also holds a 5-0 pro boxing record, 3 of those 5 wins by knockout. Both these guys are killers, man. Both these guys are finishers. Vidal, 100% finish rate. Joseph Creer, he's on like a 4-fight finish streak. Seems like Vidal, he's willing to take more damage. He's willing to walk through the fire. But Joseph Creer, he's got solid clinch work as well. Both these guys are very well-rounded in the squared circle. I kind of get Cody Russell vibes off Cody Vidal. And Cody Vidal also, he trains out of California, but he was born in Pennsylvania. So he's got some Philly boxing running through him, and those guys from Philly are tough, man. I see a different breed in Cody Vidal, and he puts a certain pace in these fights that he's in that no one can really match. I'm going to be taking Cody Vidal here. Low confidence. It should be a banger. This is a co-main event for a reason. Could lean average. I'm liking what I'm seeing on the Vidal side. He's younger. Both these guys are 2 killers. He's got quite significant age advantage. And Father Time's undefeated. You don't know when he's going to come knocking on the career side, even though he's on quite a roll. Both these guys win streaks. One of them's coming to an end. On to the next fight. Next up, main event, welterweight bout. You have 25-year-old number 2 ranked for this welterweight division, Bryce Henry, taking on 30-year-old number 1 ranked for this welterweight division, Carlos Trinidad-Snake. Bryce Henry, undefeated in BKFC, 7-0, transition from boxing into BKFC. Carlos Trinidad-Snake has only 1 loss in BKFC, 7-1. Looking at the tail of the tape, height, 3-inch taller on the Henry side, only going to possess 2-inch reach advantage. Bryce Henry, 7-1 pro boxer, 5 of 7 wins by knockout, has been knocked out once in his own lone loss, 2-4 amateur. Coming off an 80-day turnaround, just fought recently against Julian Lane. And bad stoppage there. Not the way you want to see it end. Not Bryce Henry's fault. But Bryce Henry, man, he minus 600 going into that fight and didn't really look like it. Yeah, I think he was winning, catching Julian Lane on the end of his jab, causing damage, but looked like that fight was trending towards a decision, taking away the 100% finish rate on Bryce Henry's side. Julian Lane ended up taking him down, and got disqualified for it. Just shot for a double leg takedown super hard. And Bryce Henry might have lost a little bit of stock in his last performance just because it was trending towards a decision and he didn't look as dominant as he did before going into that Julian Lane fight. But that's Julian Lane, and he's known to be tough, durable, and just an absolute dog. On the other hand, you have Carlos Trinidad-Snake, 2-0 professional MMA record, lanky amateur record in the amateur MMA, 13-7, 0-1 pro boxer coming off a 10-month layoff. Carlos Trinidad-Snake, no joke, man, holds wins over Dustin Peg, current champion, who ended up beating Julian Lane for the belt, ended up going into sudden death, overtime rounds, ended up winning the belt that way. Absolutely savage. Has gone to a decision with Alvin Brito, and even knocked out the bare knuckle goat Jimmy Sweeney. But his one lone loss on his resume, he has never been finished, was a split decision loss against Austin Trout, who is an experienced boxer, and Trinidad-Snake getting put against another quite experienced boxer, but quite young for his age, and Bryce Henry, who's been just absolutely thriving in BKFC. I think he's the marketability side. I think that's who BKFC is honestly still trying to push. Bryce Henry has barely been touched throughout his whole BKFC career. Like, he got rocked one time really against Julian Lane in that fight, and his head has stunned him pretty good. I don't know how he's going to wear damage. We haven't really seen him really face adversity, but I feel like this fight is going to bring it out of him, and we're going to see really how hungry he is, how bad he wants it. Bryce Henry joined BKFC 2 years later than Carlos Trinidad-Snake. Carlos Trinidad-Snake had a 2-year head start, and Bryce Henry's catching up to him, man. Trying to pass him in the rankings. I'm sure this is guaranteed title eliminator shot. Whoever wins this gets a title shot. It's going to be against Dustin Peg, I believe. But the momentum still, I believe, is on the Bryce Henry side. He has some solid defense. So I'm leaning Bryce Henry. I'm going to take him low confidence. I see these odds being pretty close. This is a very tough test. Very big proving point in this chapter of his career. Let's move right on to the quick pick segment for this card. Alright, on to the quick picks. First fight of the night, Jared Lennon versus Dominick Carey. I'm going to be taking Jared Lennon here, low confidence. Next up, Alexandra Ballou versus Sophia Hayes. I'm going to be taking Alexandra Ballou here, low confidence. Next up, Nate Ghareeb versus Nash Diedrichs. I'm going to be taking Nate Ghareeb here, average confidence. Hopefully, even though it's only a 3-round fight, he can get his pressure and pace going. Brandon Bushaw versus Matt Denning. I'm going to be taking Brandon Bushaw here, average confidence. Next up, light heavyweight bout, you have Kris Perreault versus Joe Powers. I'm going to be taking Kris Perreault here, average confidence. Featherweight bout, Kris Moutinho making his BKFC debut versus Michael Hernandez. Going to be taking Kris Moutinho here, average confidence. Bantamweight bout, you have Lardy Navarro versus David Fichtner. Jeez. Couldn't see the names. Okay, you have Lardy Navarro versus Robert Fichtner. I'm going to be taking Lardy Navarro here. Average confidence. Featured fight, featherweight bout. You have Joey Gambino versus Tommy Strydom. I'm going to be taking Joey Gambino here. Average confidence. Co-main event, light heavyweight bout. Cody Vidal versus Joseph Creer. Going to be taking Cody Vidal here. Low confidence. Main event, welterweight bout. You have Bryce Henry versus Carlos Trinidad-Snake. I'm going to be taking Bryce Henry here. Low confidence. That's going to do it for the quick picks. Just going over to Tapology quick. We have UFC Fight Night. California. I believe Anthony Hernandez fights out of California. Looks like he's the favorite going into this matchup against RoboCop, who's been on a tear. Don't forget, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. I'm pretty sure he was... The bookies marked him as the favorite. 255 to beat current champion now, Sean Strickland. But couple of his fights against Kevin Holland, Strickland, he's eating some body shots that have dropped him. Anthony Wint just fought on Dana White Contender Series, not this Tuesday, but last Tuesday. Coming off a big win, quick turnaround, fighting another fighter, making his UFC debut. Keep your eye on Anthony Wint. Everybody will be looking at him if they watch Dana White Contender Series last week. Larian Douglas, big prospect coming up, holds a lot of power, facing the tall, lanky striker in Jamal Emmers, who's been knocked out a few times. 3 knockout losses, only 1 in the UFC. But that Nate Landwehr one was pretty bad. But Larian Douglas, his nickname is Gunslinger. This man has power. Jamal Emmers a little bit more technical. I want to say Larian Douglas live for a knockout, but I would just take him money line. Could possibly go to decision, but Jamal Emmers is getting up there in age. 2 other people. Jackson McVeigh's fighting Wes Schultz. I love Wes Schultz this week. He showed phenomenal grappling in his last bout, where he's a pretty good underdog, man, and he showed he has absolutely elite grappling. I like Wes Schultz as an underdog again this week. That's crazy if he's an underdog still. And then I also like Chanel Dyer. Awarded a contract off the Dana White Contender Series even though she lost. You saw her opponent debut, I want to say a couple weeks ago, Perreault, Carol Perreault, and she looked dominant. And yeah, I think Chanel Dyer is live for a knockout, rare knockout in this ladies MMA matchup right here. First, second fight of the night. Look out for Chanel Dyer and Wes Schultz. That's going to do it. BroFi MMA out.